Hello, and welcome to Anime Audio Commentary. Today I'll be commenting on episode 9 of Tomo-Chan is a Girl. If you'd like to watch along, then start watching now. So it seems like we're getting a nifty little bit of backstory on Misaki. And, you know, it's not like we've explored the character too much, but, you know, it is interesting that he's just very different from how we see him later. I mean, he says it himself that he was sort of a gloomy, sullen child. You know, I really hate how Carol's just sort of like a punching bag when it seems like she really is a good person and the world is made better for her existence. It's really unfortunate that she's just sort of a punching bag. So I guess rather than expand upon the whole deal between Misaki and Carol, it seems as though we're sort of flashing to the present, and, you know, it's very clear that he's no longer gloomy or sullen as he was, but it's not like he's a particularly impressive specimen in his own right. But this is, I guess, interesting a little bit, you know. Tomo's dad recognizes that there's a bit more to him than meets the eye, but I don't know, he's not offering anything really substantial so far. And I guess, you know, this does gel with, I believe, the previous episode where, you know, Misaki was ready to, like, do some actual damage to people. And rightly so to an extent. So, you know, I don't necessarily agree with the Aizawa Dojo method, but if nothing else, you know, Tomo's correct. If somebody means to do you harm, you know, they don't care if you're ready or what condition you're in. They're just going to, you know, try and hurt you, so it's better to be prepared so that should the time come, you can take care of yourself. Unfortunately for Misaki, the people he's going to be training against are overzealous, for want of a better term. You know, they've each got their own hang-ups that sort of makes things more difficult for someone like him. Yeah, I guess this is a pretty good lesson about, you shouldn't telegraph your movements. If you intend to punch somebody, you don't necessarily have to draw your hand back and indicate to them that you're going to hit them. I don't think that's something too many people think about frequently, that economy of motion is a rather important thing in martial arts and fighting in general. I also do find it interesting that despite, ostensibly sparring, they're hitting each other pretty seriously. And I feel like that's kind of counterproductive. As I understand it, the purpose of sparring is to get some practical experience, but not in such a way that you're actually causing injury. So there we have a bit of an admission, The whole reason Misaki is doing all of this is for the sake of Carol, because, bless her heart, she has a penchant for getting into trouble, and he feels he cannot adequately do anything. I mean, that's definitely a laudable, honorable goal, if nothing else. Now, I'm not sure why Tomo's chewing him out a little bit. I feel like in Misaki's case, the best thing he can do is, reject weakness, become strong, and the idea is like, oh, he's strong in other ways, not necessarily physical, but it's kind of not the issue. So, there is a little something in Carol's facial expression that strikes me as interesting. And it seems like there's a bit more romance going on here. Like another side has been added to the romantic polyhedron going on. Now, I do have to say, it is kind of weird that Misaki and Carol are cousins. With any luck, it's like second or third, something a little bit further out, but it really seems like there's some form of romantic interest, and Carol, I don't know what's going on inside her head, I feel like she's trying to be conniving in a weird sort of way. By hanging out with June, she can make Tomo jealous to try and get Carol to go away so she can hang out with June, freeing up Misaki. Well, that's very interesting. That was a rather lucid turn of phrase from Carol. It's little snippets like that would indicate perhaps she's far more intelligent and cunning than anybody would give her credit for. And you know what? I really wouldn't like it if it turned out that Carol was not only conniving, but also just kind of mean, too. I mean, fortunately, June is of the belief that everybody's friendship is a bit more resilient than Carol seems to think. But I don't know. Things are starting to get interesting, Carol's she's being a bit coy with things, you know, she's not saying what she means, and in doing so, you know, it leads people to naturally misunderstand things. Oh dear. You know, I feel like this is only going to cause problems. You know, nothing good can really come of something like this. You know, I'm just at a loss here. Like, what sort of fourth dimensional chess is Carol playing here? You know, like, she makes it clear that if things don't work, presumably between her and Misaki, it's Jun's fault. And, you know, she's dropping some knowledge like, you know, hey, you and Tomo need to hang out and do stuff, you know. I'm just at a loss for words, you know. In a weird sort of way, it seems to have been just the impulse to shift things back into, I guess, a favorable trajectory, for want of a better term. I'm almost reminded of the irresponsible Captain Tyler in a weird sort of roundabout way. Because the general premise is that the main character, Captain Tyler, is either insanely lucky and stupid, or he's a master strategist, and there's serious evidence for both here. That's the kind of vibe that Carol's giving me. And, you know, before this episode, I would have assumed that she was just kind of airheaded, but I don't know. You know, there is evidence to suggest that she is intelligent, just eccentric. On the other hand, you know, if she's being so candid about what had happened, it seems as though, you know, she's not using any sort of tact. She's just being honest to her own detriment. Yeah, Misuzu does have an interesting sort of position in all of this, in that she basically has to wrangle all of her idiot friends, because none of them are basically willing to be honest or forthright about anything. Fortunately, Misuzu's in a position to be forthright and sort of force people into being honest. I guess it's a nice change of pace that, you know, she's acting as matchmaker for somebody else now, too. Now, you know, I'm not quite sure what Misaki's going on about here, saying, you know, Carol's strong or anything like that. I mean, I guess she has a sort of fortitude lent to her by her obliviousness, but I wouldn't necessarily call that a strength. But I guess I can understand why Misaki would necessarily be kind of intimidated. Alright, you know, I think Misuzu's, she's getting to something here. You know, if somebody says something but never acts on it, then they don't really mean it or want it or what have you. Now this is also interesting. She's sort of, I guess, forcing Misaki to act, lest she do something instead, which, nobody would particularly want. Oh dear. Okay, so I guess that's to be expected, Misuzu was trying to, I guess, shock Carol into dropping what may or may not be a facade. But I don't know. It's hard to tell whether or not it'll work. Alright, so it seems like this is actually affecting Carol. Oh dear. Well, I guess, in a weird sort of way, Misuzu could... She could be sort of turning this into a situation where Misaki could try and salvage things. I don't know, I feel like that's a rather Machiavellian way of looking at things. And frankly, I don't like stuff like that, but... I mean, I guess, Tomo seems to recognize that Misuzu wasn't being mean to be mean. There was a sort of end state that she was trying to reach, but, I really don't like the line of thinking that the ends justify the means. Man, that is some greeting. But if Carol really is so broken up about everything that's going on, I guess that could be getting off somewhat easy. Assuming, of course, Carol doesn't do something uncharacteristic and similar to her mother. Man, this is far more melancholy than I was bargaining for. I thought Carol would prove to be an absolute madman, mastermind type person, but, that really doesn't seem to be the case at all. And, even if that would be something I don't necessarily appreciate, I'd certainly like it a lot more than this sort of sad business. Yeah, I feel like Misaki has talked himself into a corner here. Because I guess on the one hand, explaining things would certainly help. But, I can understand not necessarily wanting to throw Misuzu under the bus. Man, he actually went and said it. I'm surprised that something like this happened basically over the course of one episode. Because, there was hints here and there, but it wasn't really a conflict until the start of this episode. I wonder how this will affect, the overall group dynamic. If Misuzu has successfully set up these two, then, you know, how does that bode for Tomo and Jun? And, you know, is Misuzu gonna get all smug about something like this, or... I wonder. I mean, I can't help but wonder if they're going to end up being like that annoying couple in school that, you know, they're all touchy-feely. But at the same time, you know, does that mean Misaki's going to be a permanent addition to the main group of characters? Man, you know, that really is sort of a sad thing that Carol really doesn't cry, and for something like this, to get her to cry, you know, that means it was really bad. I also feel like maybe her mother isn't giving Carol the credit she deserves. You know? I mean, I guess some of that is just like part and parcel of the nature of this anime as a comedy first and foremost. Well, you know, I guess Misuzu couldn't escape forever. You know, she's going to have to face some consequences for her actions. I mean, even if it's just like a little kiss on the cheek, you know, probably not ideal for her in any case, but, you know, better than violence, I suppose. Alright, well that's it for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, then by all means, tune in for the next one. See you, Space Cowboy.